with a little help from their friends.
Oh, I'm loving this, and I...
But the weather is no laughing matter.
I'm freezing. I'm cold.
So, grab a perch for Jobs for the Girls. Tomorrow, 9:30, BBC One.
A children's charity that has collected about £1 million is now alleged to have deceived the public. Here and Now reports in half an hour. First on BBC One, This Is Your Life.
I'm here at the BBC to surprise an actress who, as a little girl, wanted to be Judy Garland. Well, she didn't go somewhere over the rainbow. She turned instead to comedy, and she's been busy non-stop ever since. She's so well regarded by her fellow comedians that she's been known as the comic's tart, in the nicest possible way, of course. Although she's just celebrated 50 years in the business, she's getting more popular with younger audiences by the day. At the moment, she's in a sound effects booth, putting the finishing touches to a show that her millions of fans regard as fabulous. The rest of the cast are through here, so let's get to it. Hello, production team and stars of a highly successful TV show. Now, can you tell me what is going on this afternoon?
We're doing a dubbing session. We've got to put in lines that we either
weren't funny enough on the night. And we dubbed them in with slightly funnier lines. We get other people to write funnier lines and put them on.
And our subject has to do this as well.
Yeah, she has to do a cooey.
Where will she do it?
She'll do it in there.
In another little studio.
Miraculously, it'll appear on their television sets one day.
Right, so you're going in there to join her, and I'll creep in through another way, and I'll see you in there.
What are you going to do, Ray? Why are you going to be in there?
I'm just, I'm a fan of the show. That's my excuse. I'll see you in there. Thank you.
Go, go, go.
Like that. Darling, squatting is against the law.
Sound effect of door being banged. A man with big red book approaching subject and saying, "Today, June Whitfield, this is your life." And you can't hear me, can you?
You are out of your mind.
Hello.
No. Oh, Michael, it can't be. Heavens. Do you mean there was no cooey after all that?
They've got your cooey. It's all in the can. In your tray. And the next sound effect will be the door closing behind us as we go to our studios and tell your life story.
Oh, my goodness.
So earrings back on.
And there's me with no earrings.
That's right. Because that's the best sound effect of all, isn't it? Applause.
Oh, of course. I'm sorry they had to do it so long, but I had to say hello.
Of course. Well, you're no stranger to appreciative audiences, and here is one of the best. We've filled the house with family and friends. Your cousin Richard, nieces Chris and Veronica, and sister-in-law Margaret are here with chums Frank Thornton, Kate Robbins, Anna Dawson, Derek Bond, Reginald Marsh, and Rosemary Franco. And two people who've been absolutely fabulous about keeping our secret, your husband Tim and daughter Susie. Now, luckily for our plot, you've been out of the way filming your part of Mother for a new series of that hit show.
And you know, darling, the real problem started, sweetie, because I wasn't even breastfed.
Oh, don't be ridiculous, dear. It wasn't done in those days. Imagine me having that clamped to my breast.
Well, the cast have taken time off to be with you tonight. Edina, Patsy and Saffron, also known as Julia Sawala, Jennifer Saunders and Joanna Lumley. the Jays. Now, Jennifer, you're responsible for bringing June to a new audience.
I am, yes. But I've always been a fan of June's. I've never told her before, because she, you know, keep it down a bit. But she's extremely easy to write for, because she only needs the one line to steal the scene, which she does quite a lot.
What lines she writes.
Joanna, this isn't the first time that you and June have worked together.
No, Michael, it's not, because we met about, was it 8 years ago at the Chichester Festival Theatre,
yes.
doing Oscar Wilde's An Ideal Husband.
We did.
We had fantastic clothes, Junie, and there was one entrance where I came on I was enormously tall, as I still am, in a bright green, dark green dress, and you came in a little purple, titchy little purple person. When we appeared, the audience used to roar, and we looked like little...
Mutton Jeff, wasn't it?
Mutton Jeff.
Mutton Jeff. Well, you don't look like it now. Thank you all very much indeed.
Oh, thank you. Bless you, bless you.
June, you've seen the inside of a few dressing rooms since your first broadcast in 1945. What was that?
1945, I think it must have been baby noises and maybe one line as a nurse, I think.
Well, it may have been only a string of gurgles, but that first radio performance was the birth of a career that led to an OBE and to the Lifetime Achievement accolade at the 1994 British Comedy Awards. Let's see some more of your grown-up moments.
Mr. Hancock, when a blood transfusion is being given, the family background is of no consequence.
Come now, surely you don't expect me to believe that. I mean, after all, East is East, really.
And blood is blood all over the world, Mr. Hancock. It is classified by groups and not by accidents of birth.
I did not come here for a lecture on communism, young lady.
Albie, you tell him while we come and let's get out of this hole. Oh, go on, are you going to tell him or aren't you?
Well, you see, John, it's like this.
Oh, mind out. Look, see that? It's a engagement ring. Your dad and me's engaged, all right?
Engaged?
Yeah, I asked her this afternoon and she said yes.
I expect she did. It's not from a girl like that gets proposed to.
Oh, now, Sonny Jim, that's no way to speak about your future mummy. I've been again.
This is monstrous. I have been robbed. You have taken 4 of my manor houses, Bletchingley, Greenwich, Windsor and Richmond.
But remember, you have got your Hampton Court.
Well, June Rosemary Whitfield, this is your life, and it started in Palace Road, Streatham. Your parents were Bertha and Jack, who was a company director from Huddersfield. All in all, it was a picture of family serenity until one fateful day when you were shot.
And I was the one who pulled the trigger.
Your big brother, a potential assassin, John Whitfield.
Oh, lovely to see you.
John, what do you have to say in your defence?
Well, it wasn't on purpose, you know. I was just out in the garden having a bit of target practice of my air rifle, and you unfortunately got in the way. A little bit of a nick, nothing serious. I hope you've forgiven me by now.
Straight through the wrist.
Yes.
Don't have the scar, though, so it's all right.
Thank you, John, very much.
Terrific.
June, you grew up in a household keen on amateur dramatics. Your mother was never off the boards, and eventually your father followed suit and really threw himself into it. That is your father, there, yes. By the tender age of 3, you'd been bitten by the bug yourself. In fact, we can see you here when you were 6, trying to shake it off. You became a leading light in the local school of dancing, and as an actress, aged 12, you're described by the town paper as a little genius for your role in Love's Labour's Lost.
What happened?
Well, there's a lot more pages, so something must have happened. Well, it comes as no surprise when you decide to turn professional. In 1942, you're accepted by RADA. And when you finish your studies, you very quickly find yourself having a go with radio star Wilfred Pickles in a 1946 stage show called The Cure for Love. Now, you take a sharp change in direction when you move from Wilfred Pickles to Noel Coward for what was to be your big break in the theatre, the musical drama Ace of Clubs. Did you have a nerve-wracking audition for that?
I seem to remember, I think I sang a song called Wonderful Guy, which was out of South Pacific, which hadn't yet come to London, and an American friend had sent in the music. And I think the master said, where did you get that song? You know, it's not published yet or something. I said, well, you know, a friend sent it to me, and he said, very good. And I actually got into the show, so I suppose he was quite pleased to hear something that he hadn't been hearing, you know, 25 times before.
Ad nauseam.
Yeah.
Well, it did the trick, obviously, and the work rolls in. You appear in the original London production of South Pacific, one of the few times a paying audience ever gets to see the Whitfield Naval.
Oh, my God.
Rather a good part, huh?
Very wise, too.
Well, you cover up for your next role, and you're a sensation as Sally McBride in Love from Judy. A couple of influential people are particularly impressed, and in 1953, they make you a household name along with Jimmy Edwards, Dick Bentley, and Wallace Eaton. In radio's Take It From Here, you play the lovelorn Eth, who was always waiting for boyfriend Ron to name the day.
Oh, Ron, when the girls in my office told me, I thought they were having me on. After all, the sort of girls we've got in our office, well, one's got to be careful.
Which one's that?
And here are the men who gave you your break in that show, writers Frank Muir and Dennis Norden.
Have you seen this Sunday?
So June was an instant hit, was she?
Oh, indeed. June, I'm terribly sorry, but there's almost nothing nice we can say about your work. Well, the trouble is that you know, you're so good at it, and you're probably a national treasure more than just a very good comedy actress. Tell you what it's like. It's like saying to somebody, what do you think of a Rolls Royce? And they say, good car. And you, good thing.
What happened, June, was you joined the Glums in 1953, and you brought that touch of reality which made the other two all the funnier. Now, in 1995, you joined Absolutely Fabulous. You brought that touch of reality which made the other three all the funnier. In a sense, your career hasn't really advanced at all.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you very much. Frank and Dennis weren't the only ones with an eye for talent. There is someone else waiting in the wings who had a hand in sending you to the top.
For 7 years on Radio 2, we were in Punchline. But 40 years ago, your Punchline saved my TV show.
The star who brought you to television 40 years ago, Bob Monkhouse.
Good
Fame, June, is that you made your very first TV appearance in...
I certainly did.
Yeah.
Fast and Loose?
Fast and Loose,
yes.
That's right. And I remember that we were in a terrible panic because we had a sketch which was very, very good. You were playing my Victorian sweetheart, and I was your clumsy suitor.
Yes.
Right.
And
Oswald? Osbert.
Osbert.
Osbert. I came to your Victorian father's home. He was the immense Willoughby Goddard. Played the role, huge, frightening man. Irene Handel was your mummy, very nervous, and within the next 5 minutes, through a series of sight gags, I smashed all the crockery, I spilt the tea on Irene, I tore your dress, I smashed his clock, I juggled with spoons and broke the chandelier, and we were within an hour to going on air. And our producer said, we haven't got a punchline. And you said, I think it'd be quite nice if Daddy turned to me and Mummy and said, I like that boy. And it was the biggest laugh of the series, and I've been very grateful to you for many reasons, but my gratitude began then.
Yes. Bob, thank you.
Oh, you like that girl. I like that.
Lovely to see you. Thank you very much.
Well, talking of suitors, as we were, you found the right man, and on the 24th of October, 1955, you married Tim Aitchison, a chartered surveyor, at St Mark's Church in London. Tim, how did you meet?
Well, I met June through my late doctor brother, Bob's, and he looked after June's family. And I lived at Midhurst at the time in Sussex. And he said at Christmas time in 1954, let's go and have a drink, and I've got a friend. The friend was June.
There you go.
I never looked back from that moment onwards. And this year, after many, many happy years, we're celebrating our ruby wedding anniversary.
Well, nice work. And it was a case of cheers all round on June the 4th, 1960, when your daughter Susie was born. And Susie, you followed June into the theatre. Did your mother ever try to talk you out of it?
I sort of, you know, loved what she did from an early age. And Mum always tells me this story of me at about the age of 3 or 4, sitting on your lap at home, watching her on telly and being a bit confused as to how she could be in 2 places at once. And I would sort of look at Mum and then look at the screen and then look back at Mum. And eventually, apparently, I sort of turned to Mum and said, "And then Mummy comes home to Susie."
Now, professionally, life hasn't all been peace and harmony. You've had your fair share of rivalry.
Coffee's perking away. You might do, as a matter of fact, what, Gerald?
Buy a second-hand car.
Oh, first things first, Gerald. I mean, we could do with a new bedroom carpet or even some wall-to-wall lino.
Well, make a change from wall-to-wall floorboards.
Well, Beggar My Neighbour is fondly remembered, and you and the rest of the cast would get together to work out ideas. 2 of them are here tonight, Pat Coombs and Reg Varney.
No.
Pat, you used to meet at June's house.
Well, one night, do you remember, you thought it was a good idea. We might have, you know, brilliant thoughts. You remember?
Our writing moment, didn't you?
Our writing moment. And we started on the patio with a lot of white wine and stuff and cigarettes in those days. And Tim, where are you? You kept going down to the cellar for more white wine. And he fell down, didn't he? He fell down.
Your memory's better than mine.
Yeah, do you remember? And then suddenly it was something awful like dawn, 4 o'clock in the morning, right? And I thought it's time we went to bed. And we crept upstairs, giggling, got to the landing, a door opened, and Susie, little 7-year-old, hands on hips, said, "Excuse me, but are you getting up or coming to bed?" But it's a lovely, naughty but nice memory, too.
Lovely.
And,
Yeah,
you know.
great,
Reg, you've got a few of your own ideas into the show.
The show, Beggar My Neighbour, was this particular episode. It opened up with a little argument, breakfast argument between Rose and Gerald, and it panned on an egg, one egg, and it panned back, and he picked up the spoon and bashed the egg. Now, the next scene, it turned to us, and we had everything, and there I had a double egg in the double-headed cup, and I picked up the spoon, and it was a double-headed egg spoon. Tell you what, I've got a surprise for you. You always like it. There you are.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Pat and Reg, thank you very much.
Oh, yes. Thank you, dear. Oh, wonderful.
Well, although you've always been busy, June, you've taken time out to dabble in politics by campaigning for your local MP. Unfortunately, not everybody appreciates your efforts.
I was so grateful that you didn't present me with a dry cleaning bill.
And we'll find out why from your close friend, actress Liz Fraser. Liz, you didn't go doorstepping, did you?
Well, yes, we did. You see, June's been such a great mate to me, and I persuaded her a long time ago to come canvassing with me. And you didn't want to. It was completely against your will.
Well, I just had a perm and it was raining.
Yes, that's right. And we went into this block of flats near me, and I said, "You'll be a real vote catcher because they all love you." And you looked up at the balcony where they were all standing, and you waved and smiled, and they threw red paint all over you. Anyway, thank you very much.
Liz.
And thank you,
Lovely
Liz
to see you.
Fraser. Well, your stage and screen careers continue hand in hand. You're a sellout in shows like Over My Dead Body and Not Now, Darling. In spite of those unromantic titles, one man at the Savoy really gives you the eye.
Hello, June. You have to forgive me. I couldn't resist.
Well, you first carried on with him 40 years ago, Leslie Phillips. Leslie, you have a reputation for being sometimes a bit naughty on stage. What did you do to June?
June is a marvellous person to work with. She's always on the ball. She never breaks up. She never laughs when she shouldn't. And I was determined to make her laugh one night. I came on with my upstage eye. I gave her my dead eye. And she didn't break at all. But the following evening, she came on, and she gave me her dead up. Can you still do... Yeah, you see... The audience thought we'd gone quite raving mad. Darling,
it's lovely to see you.
She's smashing to work with. A lovely lady.
You can break me up anytime, kid.
Thank you, Leslie. It was your partnership with one man in particular that was to leave a lasting impression on us all. In 1974, you co-starred in the programme Scott on Courage. And the immediate chemistry between you and Terry Scott had most of us believing that you were actually man and wife, particularly, of course, in Terry and June. Let's take a look at Mr. and Mrs. Medford in festive spirit, rehearsing the part of a pantomime cow.
1, 2, cha-cha-cha.
1, 2, cha-cha-cha.
Picture you upon my knee. 2 for 2 and 2 for tea. Me for you and you for me. Moo, 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 moo. Why didn't you turn?
I did turn.
At the same time I did?
I did.
Well, why do I end up looking at my own backside?
Well, it was at the end of a perfect partnership and a great loss for the public last year when Terry died.
Absolutely.
However, your friendship with Terry's wife is as strong as ever. Maggie Scott.
Hey, good old man.
Maggie, as the real Mrs. Scott, there must have been quite a lot of confusion.
I should say so.
Oh, hello.
I'd go with Terry to open a plate or something, and somebody was bound to say, well, where's the real wife? Or they'd say, but I thought you were blonde. But Terry had the best line, because he used to say, well, of course I've got 2 wives, one for show and one for go. But seriously, June, you've been a wonderful colleague and a friend all these years, and I'm very proud to have you.
You're a lovely girl. Tim had the same trouble, you know. People used to say, where's your real husband? Afraid so.
Thank you, Maggie. Now, hot on the heels of Terry and June, you hit the headlines when you joined Radio 2's famous comedy news show.
It's for them D-Day celebrations. Oh. Still, at least the Germans won't be going. Not that we really wanted them there the last time.
Your fellow Hudliners, Roy Hudd and Chris Emmett. Now, June made quite an impression from the very start, didn't she?
Well, yes, how June got involved with the radio show, it's a good story. And June, we were together in Panto at Richmond. And one night after the show, sitting in the dressing room having the odd Guinness or 15, as was our wont, and you said, what are you doing next? And I said, well, we're doing another series of the news headlines, but sadly, we had, first our girl was Janet Brown, right. Then Alison Steadman, and I said, since then, we've tried every girl in radio, and nobody's quite right. And you said, well, I've done a bit of radio, you know. So I thought, yes, that's true. And I said, well, no, not right, Jim, really, because you've got to be impressions of this. I think if you did an impression, if you could do an impression of Margaret Thatcher, then you stand a chance of getting into the show. So the next night we did the great scene where Jude, as the fairy, has to referee the fight between the cat and the rat. And you introduced the fight in how?
Go to your corners, and when you hear the bell, you come out fighting.
You know, Michael, June was so keen to join us, but what she didn't know was the real reason why Alison left the programme. It's because Roy and I were ruining her career, you see. And for the last 11 years, we've tried to drag June down to our level, and we've failed, haven't we?
We've failed again.
Yes.
But we hope it carries on for another 11 years.
Keep trying. Roy Hudd and Chris Emmett. Well, it's not just your comedy that keeps our fingers on the dial. You recently followed in the footsteps of Lady Sleuths Margaret Rutherford and Joan Hickson in the role of Miss Marple. You kept up the detective work last year, seeking out the funniest side of life with Esther Ranson.
Hello, June. I think one of the things you didn't realise when you first walked in here was how terrified I was. You look so respectable. So we had all these naughty cuttings for you to choose from to read on the show, and I wondered if you'd be cross with them. But of course you weren't. You roared with laughter and picked some of the wickedest. and did them in a wide range of voices that only you can master. And we adored having you. So have a lovely evening.
June, there's been so much television and radio, but you've never given up the stage. Ever since Cinderella back in 1947, you've been a favourite fairy godmother to many of your co-stars.
Remember my bow tie?
Remember my tail?
And where's the gorilla when you need it?
No.
Rolf Harris, Jack Tripp and Honor Blackman.
Yeah, no, not that
What a threesome.
Yeah. Rolf, you took
Wish
time
I had
off.
my wand.
Too late. Rolf, you took time off from Animal Hospital to play Baron Hardup.
Yeah, we did that every morning, and I had to race like mad across London, driven across to get there in time, and sometimes nearly didn't make it.
I know.
But it was wonderful. And June is so concerned for everybody else on the show. I was always taking photographs. I brought some in. This is the best one. That's the lovely smiling one. I didn't bring the Margaret Rutherford one. You hated that, didn't you?
Well, you
But
said it was in perfect focus, which worried me.
Yeah, but it was, but you hated the expression. Like, it's so lovely to work
That's
with.
very sweet of you.
Honor, June's always been a bit of a goody-goody compared to you.
Oh, I don't know about that. We've done a couple of pantomimes together. And I remember the one we did to Dick Whittington, when you were the wonderful fairy, and always winning, and I was the wicked demon with the queen rat, with this wonderful costume, with the ears and the huge long tail. And one night, June glanced over before I made my entrance and was absolutely startled to see me standing in the wings, wrapping a towel around my tail. So later on, I did go on without the towel, but later on I had to explain that I was having terrible trouble with this tail because people would stand on it. I'd shut it in a door, and on this occasion, I dropped it down the loo. It was great.
Yeah, terrific. All those rhyming couplets.
Yeah,
enjoyed those.
great.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Now, as this is an honest assessment of your life, June, I must mention that there is a passion of yours that you've managed to keep quiet about so far. Let's hear about it from an old master.
There's still space on my mantelpiece for another goblet, you know.
Your co-star from Variety Playhouse and his own Crowther's Crowd, Leslie Crowther. Leslie, it's good to see you, but you must tell us about this secret love.
The last time she stayed with us, she made us a present of a pair of antiques, goblets, that we stuck up on the mantelpiece, the very tall mantelpiece, and whenever I think of the mantelpiece,
Leslie, it's good to see you here for this final tribute because, June Whitfield, this is your life.
Oh,